Hollywood called it career suicide. Then lightning struck the man playing Jesus, and the set descended into chaos. What unfolded behind the cameras was so intense, so supernatural, that even skeptics began to whisper, this was more than a movie. Welcome to Peace in Jesus, where we uncover the spiritual battles behind the most controversial and impactful film in cinema history. The Passion of the Christ was not merely a movie produced for entertainment. It was a cultural phenomenon that shook the world. Director Mel Gibson embarked on a journey that many considered career suicide, driven by a vision that refused to be silenced. Every major studio in Hollywood turned their backs on him, labeling the project as radioactive and too controversial for mainstream audiences. Refusing to compromise his vision, Gibson invested $30 million of his own money to ensure the story remained brutally authentic. He chose Jim Caviezel to play the lead role, warning the actor that this decision might permanently end his acting career. Caviezel accepted the challenge immediately, stating that we all have to embrace our crosses, regardless of the heavy cost involved. From the very first day of filming, the atmosphere on set was unlike anything the cast and crew had ever experienced. This video does not focus on cinematic techniques, but dives deep into the unexplained phenomena and human impact of this production. The actor did not just act out the suffering, he lived through it, blurring the dangerous line between performance and reality. During the filming of the scourging scene, a mistake occurred, and Caviezel was struck by a real whip, tearing his flesh. He described the sensation as having the wind knocked out of him, yet he continued to film despite the searing agony. The cross he carried weighed 150 pounds, and during a fall, it dislocated his shoulder, causing permanent damage. Filming the crucifixion scenes in the freezing Italian winter left him with hypothermia and a lung infection that nearly killed him. Doctors on set warned that his heart was under so much stress that he could go into cardiac arrest at any moment. But the physical pain was only part of the story. Strange and inexplicable events began to plague the production regularly. While filming the Sermon on the Mount, Jim Caviezel was literally struck by lightning, shocking the entire crew and terrifying everyone. Witnesses described seeing fire coming from the right side of his head, yet he survived the strike without any serious injury. Incredibly, the assistant director was also struck by lightning twice during the production, defying all statistical odds of natural occurrence. The crew began to feel that an invisible pressure was weighing down on them, as if dark forces were trying to stop production. Equipment would malfunction simultaneously without cause, and weather patterns would shift violently, disrupting the schedule and testing their resolve. Caviezel relied heavily on his faith, spending hours in prayer and attending daily mass to sustain himself through the grueling process. He slept only a few hours a night, waking up in excruciating pain, yet he arrived on set ready to suffer again. The intensity of the performance began to impact the crew, leading to unexpected conversions among those who had no previous faith. One actor, who played a guard scourging Jesus, broke down in tears after the scene, profoundly touched by the reality of grace. There were moments when the set fell completely silent, not because the director yelled "cut," but because the presence of God felt tangible. Gibson later admitted that he felt he was merely a vessel for a story that demanded to be told with absolute truth. The makeup process alone took up to 8 hours a day, leaving Caviezel with skin infections and severe migraines from the chemicals. He was left hanging on the cross for long periods in biting winds, causing his muscles to cramp and lock up painfully. This shared suffering created a unique bond among the cast, who felt they were participating in something far greater than a movie. Caviezel stated that he wanted people to see Jesus, not him, and prayed that his own self would disappear into the role. Post-production was equally challenging, with Gibson struggling to find a distributor who would dare to release such a graphic depiction. Critics attacked the film before it was even released, predicting it would be a box office disaster and a stain on Gibson's career. However, upon release, the film defied all expectations, drawing millions of viewers who were hungry for a raw depiction of faith. Cinemas became places of worship, with silence filling the auditoriums as audiences sat stunned by the visceral reality of the sacrifice. Reports surfaced of criminals turning themselves in to police after watching the movie, unable to live with their guilt any longer. For Jim Caviezel, the role came with a heavy price. He was largely shunned by Hollywood for being open about his faith. He went from being a rising star to an outcast, exactly as Gibson had warned him before they started filming the project. Yet, he has never expressed regret, stating that the experience deepened his relationship with God in ways fame never could. Mel Gibson also faced years of exile, but the success of the film proved that there was a massive audience for faith-based content. The film stripped away the sanitized version of the crucifixion, forcing the world to confront the bloody and brutal cost of redemption. Churches around the world used the film as a tool for evangelism, sparking conversations about faith that had been dormant for decades. Even in countries where Christianity is restricted, the film circulated underground, touching hearts and changing lives in unexpected places globally. Caviezel underwent 2 heart surgeries after the production, a physical reminder of the immense stress his body endured for this role. The movie did not just entertain, it acted as a catalyst for a global spiritual awakening that is still felt today. Stories of generosity abounded, with strangers buying out entire theaters to ensure that anyone who wanted to see it could attend. Caviezel continues to speak to audiences, urging them to reject mediocrity and to be bold in their faith regardless of the cost. Gibson received thousands of letters from people claiming the film saved their marriages, ended their addictions, or prevented their suicides. The camaraderie formed in the trenches of this production created lifelong friendships rooted in a shared survival of the impossible. Over time, even some harsh critics have had to acknowledge the film's artistic achievement and its undeniable power over the audience. It remains the highest-grossing R-rated film in domestic history, a record that speaks volumes about the hunger for meaningful storytelling. Jim often says that he did not play Jesus, but that Jesus played him, taking over when his own strength failed. The ancient city of Matera, Italy, became a character itself, providing a hauntingly authentic backdrop that transported viewers back in time. The imagery from the film has become iconic, influencing art, music, and pop culture, permanently embedding itself in the collective consciousness. Though the sets have been cleared and the costumes stored away, the spiritual footprint of the production remains visible to this day. Their partnership stands as a testament to what can be achieved when artists prioritize truth over comfort and approval from others. The strange occurrences on set serve as a reminder that when we step into spiritual territory, we are never truly alone. The film drove millions back to the scriptures, encouraging them to read the original account of the Passion for themselves. Caviezel carries the scars and the memories with honor, viewing his suffering as a small offering compared to the original sacrifice. It sparked theological debates and discussions that bridged the gap between different denominations, uniting believers under the core message of the gospel. The Passion of the Christ stands as a cinematic monument, a bold declaration of faith in an increasingly secular and skeptical industry. Even on small screens years later, the power of the film remains undiminished, continuing to touch hearts in intimate, personal moments. Rumors of a sequel, focusing on the resurrection, continue to circulate, proving that the world is still hungry for this narrative. Jim remains active in the industry, choosing roles that align with his values, refusing to bow to the pressure of conformity. Every person who stepped onto that set left with a mark, a spiritual imprint that they carried into the rest of their lives. The film ends not with death, but with a powerful image of resurrection, offering hope to a world drowning in despair. This production reminds us that often the greatest light shines brightest only after we have endured the darkest and most painful storms. It challenged artists everywhere to stop sanitizing the truth and to present the gospel with the raw intensity it truly deserves. Just as rain brings life to dry ground, this film watered the seeds of faith in millions of souls across the globe. Caviezel's journey teaches us that true success is not measured by awards, but by faithfulness to one's calling and convictions. The script itself was a miracle, weaving together the Gospels into a coherent narrative that spoke to the heart of humanity. Soldiers, prisoners, and the brokenhearted have found special solace in seeing a God who understands physical pain and emotional betrayal. Gibson's gamble paid off, not just financially, but spiritually, proving that he was right to trust his instincts over industry experts. It brought people together, forcing them to confront the reality of sin and the overwhelming magnitude of the love of God. The story of the making of this film is almost as miraculous as the movie itself. Filled with divine interventions and protection, Jim Caviezel remains a humble servant, always pointing the praise back to the one he portrayed, refusing to take the glory. As we reflect on this film, we are reminded that the message of the cross is foolishness to some, but power to believers. The empty cross stands as a symbol of victory, and this film helped a modern generation understand the price of that victory. From the lightning strikes to the conversions, the making of the Passion of the Christ was truly a modern-day miracle. They risked their reputations, their finances, and their safety to tell a story that the world desperately needed to hear. We hope this deep dive into the behind-the-scenes struggles has inspired you to stand firm in your own convictions and faith. Thank you for joining us on this journey. If this story touched your heart, please share it with someone who needs hope. Don't forget to subscribe to Peace in Jesus and hit the bell icon so you never miss our future documentaries. May the peace of Jesus be with you always. Until next time, keep the faith and walk in the light of truth.